Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Tara His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda, Radhakunda, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Sri Mathura Dham Ki Jai, Sri Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Sri Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Sri Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Sri Bhakti Devi, Sri Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we're still in the 10th canto. This is chapter 66. I'm going to read verses 12 through 14, which is the first set, and then also 15, which is the summary. Tasha Kashipatir Mitram Parsnigraho Nayanripa Akshauhini Bishti Shribir Apashyat Pandrakam Hari Dasha Kashipatir Mitram Parsnigraho Nayanripa Akshauhini Bishti Shribir Apashyat Pandrakam Hari Dasha Kashipatir Mitram Parsni Grahon Vayanrepa Akshohini Bisti Sribir Apashyat Pandrakam Hari Dasha Kashipatir Mitram Parshni Grahon Vayamripa Akshohini Bistisribir Apashat Pandrakamari Dasha Kashipatir Mitram Parshni Grahon Vayamripa Akshohini Bistisribir Aspashat Pandrakam Hari Tasha Kashipatir Mitram Arshni Grahon Vayam Nripa Akshohini Lesribir Apasha Pandrakam Hari Tasha Kashipatir Mitram Parshni Grahon Vayamripa Akshohini Bistisribir Apashat Pandrakam Hari Tasha Kashipatir Mitram Parshni Grahon Vayamripa Akshohini Tisribir Apashat Pandrakam Hari. There is a little bit more to this verse, so maybe we can all just read together through to the rest. Srivat Sadyo Palakshitam Bibranam Kaustubo Manim. The second, yeah. Yeah, that one. Got it? Srivasadyupalakshitam. Yeah. Bibranam kaustubhodmanim. Vanamala vibhushitam. Kausheyavashishipite. Vasanam karudadvajam. Amulya malya bharanam Spuran makara kundalam Tasha, his Pandurakas. Kashipati, the master of Kashi. Mitra, friend. Parsnigraha, as the rear guard. Anvayat, followed. Nripa, O King Pariksit. Ashabini bihi, with divisions. Tisribi, 3. Apashat, saw. Pandrakam, Pandraka. Hari, Lord Krishna. Sanka, with conch shell. Adi, disc. Ashi, sword. Gadha, club. Saranga, Saranga bow. Srivatsa, with the Srivat sign of hair on his chest. Adi, and other symbols. Upalakshitam, marked. Bibranam, bearing. Kaustuba manim, the Kaustuba gem. Vanamala, with a garland of forest flowers. Vibhushitam, decorated. Kaushaya, of fine silk. Vashashi, a pair of garments. Pite, yellow. Vasanam, wearing. Garuda dvajam, his banner marked with the image of Garuda. Amulya, valuable. Mauli, a crown. Abharanam, whose ornament. Spurat, gleaming. Makara, shark-shaped. Kundalam, with earrings. Translation. Paundraka's friend, the king of Kashi, followed behind, O king, leading the rear guard with 3 Akshauhini divisions. Lord Krishna saw that Paundraka was carrying the Lord's own insignia, such as the conch shell, disc, sword, and club, and also an imitation Sarangabo and Srivatsa mark. He wore a mock Kaustuba gem, was decorated with a garland of forest flowers, and was dressed in upper and lower garments of fine yellow silk. His banner bore the image of Garuda, and he wore a valuable crown and gleaming shark-shaped earrings. Please repeat. Paundraka's friend, the king of Kashi, followed behind, O king, leading the rear guard with 3 Akshauhini divisions. Lord Krishna saw that Paundraka was carrying the Lord's own insignia, such as the conch shell, disc, sword, and club, and also an imitation Sarangabo and Srivatsa mark. He wore a mock Kaustuba gem, was decorated with a garland of forest flowers, and was dressed in upper and lower garments of fine yellow silk. His banner bore the image of Garuda, and he wore a valuable crown and gleaming shark-shaped earrings. Purport by the servants of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada comments in Krishna. When the 2 kings came before Lord Krishna to oppose him, Krishna saw Paundraka face to face for the first time. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, with the covering on that mouth which is now speaking, surrounded by birds like herons, bata, and vultures, you will become the shelter of dogs. The dogs will happily eat you. He saw Paundraka, who had a false Garuda on his flag and who was wearing cheap imitation ornaments, Amulya Mauli Abharanam. Jiva Goswami comments, Nripa indicates that he had great wealth. Sometimes Nripa, O king, is seen. Paundraka had a false Srivats made by borrowing someone else's body hair. His clothing and ornaments were fake. This will be explained later. Vishnu Purana says, Vakshailankaritam chasha srivatsam dastrise hari. The Lord saw him with ornaments and srivats on his chest. The word Adi indicates the lotus and other symbols. As a blessing from Shiva, he could display 4 arms. This is explained in Padma Purana Uttarakhanda. They were also false, since they could be removed from below his armpits with a sword. His crown and ornaments were imitations that looked like the Lord's fine ornaments. And finally, Sanatana Goswami commented, Nripa indicates that he had great wealth. He had 3 akshahinis, the Lord had natural dress, etc., being all attractive, Harihi. Or he would take Pandrika's life, Hari. Pandrika's clothing and Srivats were fake. This will be explained later. The Lord saw him with ornaments and Srivats on his chest. The word Adi indicates the lotus and other symbols. He added 2 arms with effort and some similarity to the Lord's. His crown and ornaments were imitations that looked like the Lord's fine ornaments. Om Gyana Tiramandasha Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unminitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavari Pashyata Desatadine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bir Krishna Das Gosaminiti Namine Namaham Sanikashaya Prabhupada Priyayate Sudrida Sudhi Nistyamam Tashavakyanavadine. So we've been reading about this whole folly of Pandrika, who, just this whole description, I've read it so many times, and it's just, it makes me incredulous to think that someone would have the audacity to dress up like Krishna and wear all these ornaments that, denote the Lord's position, even to the extent that he borrowed someone's bodily hair to make the mark on his chest. I mean, that's disgusting. And just the whole thing from top to bottom. And, he had his henchman with him, the king of Kashi. And this whole absurd folly by this character, Pandrika, it just screams, of cheating. When it all boils down, it's what we read about. And I looked up, Prabhupada mentioned so many times in so many scriptures of the cheating propensity. We know we have the 4 defects, imperfect senses, and, tendency to cheat is actually the foremost, according to Srila Prabhupada. And this whole thing is just this illusion that he was putting on at the behest of his friends or whatever. They were goading him on and validating his idea, also cheating the friends. Instead of someone actually saying, wait a minute, this isn't right, they just perpetuated it, keep perpetuating it. And we see this so much. Yet generally if someone has a, sort of crazy idea and they become emboldened by their friends or associates, then they just go ahead and do whatever they want to do. We're actually seeing this quite a lot now in our government, One person gets away with something that maybe they wanted to do, so then they're emboldened and they, want to do the same thing, whether it's wrong or whether it's right. Usually it's wrong. And of course, Pandrika here certainly did the wrong thing by trying to dress up so meticulously to, it boggles my mind. Even getting a boon from Lord Shiva to have 2 extra arms, which were fake. But, this whole elaborate sort of dog and pony show to imitate Krishna, or to show himself as Krishna. And this is most certainly the cheating propensity that we hear about so much. And I just want to read a little bit about that because as practitioners in this process, we're also trying to develop our better characters and characteristics. Sometimes we meet people who are, they're in the world and they don't have very good discrimination. There's many people that don't have very good discrimination. Actually, in the Jaiva Dharma, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of his main things that he talks about that everybody should have, or actually he distinguishes it that a Vaishnava particularly must have proper discernment, means proper discrimination about things that you come across, what's presented to you, because as one of the 4 defects of human beings, cheating is rampant, and it's constantly going, and I wanted to read an interesting thing that one of the times that Prabhupada referred to the cheating propensity. This is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 14, Text 4. A conditioned living being is endowed with 4 principles of malpractice. And this is how he words these defects. Namely, errors, insanity, inability, and cheating. These are the signs of imperfection, and out of the 4, the propensity to cheat others is most prominent. And here's Prabhupada's purport. A conditioned living being is endowed with 4 principles of malpractice. These are the signs of imperfection, and out of the 4, the propensity to cheat others is most prominent. And this cheating practice is there in the conditioned souls because the conditioned souls are primarily in the material world imbued with an unnatural desire to lord it over the material world. A living being in his pure state is not conditioned by the laws because in his pure state he is conscious that a living being is eternally subservient to the Supreme Being, and thus it is always good for him to remain subservient instead of falsely trying to lord it over the property of the Supreme Lord. In the conditioned state, the living being is not satisfied even if he actually becomes the lord of all that he surveys, which he never becomes, and therefore he becomes the victim of all kinds of cheating, even with his nearest and most intimate relations. In such an unsatisfactory state of affairs, there is no harmony, even between father and sons or between husband and wife. But all these contending difficulties can be mitigated by one process, and that is the devotional service of the Lord. So Prabhupada is actually summarizing this whole phantasmagoria that Pandrika has propounded. And, for us, obviously, to understand that we have imperfect senses. We know that going in. And as we try to control a situation, control others, control, as Pandrika is attempting to do, that's the foremost propensity, which is to cheat others. And since that propensity is there, we're actually also very prone to being cheated. And it happens all the time. We see it all the time. If someone doesn't have that discernment, that proper discrimination, then they will be cheated. It's a fact. And the only way that we're able to get around that ingrained propensity, it's ingrained, Unfortunately, we're born with these things. We're born with imperfect senses. We're born with this tendency to commit mistakes. We're born with these things. It really can't be helped. But it's something that, as we read about Pandrika, because it's such a, it's such a random sort of little snippet of a pastime, Krishna, we just heard about Balaram. He was going to pacify the gopis, and, these are affairs of the heart, And then after this, we'll hear about Balaram slaying Vidvida gorilla, and there's a lot of lessons there. But, juxtapositioned in here is this whole bit about this personality who obviously is not grounded in reality. And I like how Prabhupada puts it here, the malpractice, namely errors and insanity. You know, he's not grounded in reality. So he's borrowing someone's chest hair and gluing it onto himself, whatever he's doing. And can you imagine? And the thing is I, as I was searching for a little bit, you know, it's like, who is this person? He actually made himself to look just like Krishna. So all of his friends and associates were just like going along with it because he did a really, really good job of dressing up, you know, like spot on, even with the arms, because generally most people don't have it. So he just went through this elaborate whole, you know, ritual to dress up and look like Krishna. And, you know, I mean, what's his motivations? There's quite a lot of motivations, but, you know, we can't really know. But as we read this, we can understand, you know, it's such an absurd and just outrageous display. You know, when we do these things, when we cheat others or we are cheated, you know, how do we feel? You know, we feel ashamed, you know, especially once the mirror is held up and we can see how that looked, how it looks, right? How it looks on us, how it looks for others. And we feel, you know, we can maybe feel some shame, some remorse, some regret, you know, learn a lesson out of those things. Not saying any of you are doing that, but just we feel these things. We can see the folly of our error. But Pandrika, he really couldn't. He wasn't able to see those things. And he just kept trying to perpetuate this this facade, you know, the facade. And that's the danger, you know, whether we're cheating or not cheating, or we're going about our daily business in bhakti yoga, but maybe we're thinking of some way to break out and you know, we know our minds, right? We have our minds, and you know, sometimes the minds are a little obstinate. They're not easy to steer in the right direction, and they can give us a lot of trouble. I mean, that's Kali Yuga. And what do we do? You know, what can we do? You know, we can feel a little bit helpless, and we can just sort of go with the flow and do whatever our minds tell us to do, or we can actually be a little bit introspective. You know, we can actually think about, because I'm sure everybody has the experience, if something comes your way and it doesn't feel quite right, you know, it's a little bit off, you know, kind of deep down, maybe something nags at you about that. You know, this is, wait a minute, I don't know if this is exactly right. How do I find out what the right, you know, way to go is? And then we have, you know, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And we need to use those tools so we don't become victimized by others or ourselves, you know, the propensity to cheat. We don't become part of that statistic. We try to avoid reform from having those 4 defects, or as Prabhupada says, malpractice. You know, malpractice, I'm taking that's malpractice when using the human body and mind and intelligence particularly to act in a way that's not, you know, dharmic, or is not the right way to go by others particularly, you know. And I just want to read Krishna's response to this, because it's quite humorous, actually. And it kind of summarizes what the outcome, you know, of this person appearing with all the, can you imagine? With all of his conch shell, disc, mace, you know, the imitation saranga bow, the Kastuba gem, you know, something he bought on Amazon or whatever that looks like, you know, something. So, Krishna. Drisvatam atmanastulyam vesham trimamastitam yatanatam rangagatam vijahasa brisam Hari. Lord Hari laughed heartily when he saw how the king had dressed up an exact imitation of his own appearance, just like an actor on a stage. Prabhupada's purport from the Krishna book. Srila Prabhupada describes this scene as follows. On the whole, Pandrika's dress and makeup were clearly imitation. Anyone could understand that he was just like someone on a stage playing the part of Vasudeva in false dress. When Lord Sri Krishna saw Pandrika imitating his posture and dress, he could not check his laughter, and thus he laughed with great satisfaction. Srila Jiva Goswami points out that it was a benediction from Lord Shiva that enabled Pandrika to imitate the Lord's dress and appearance exactly. So, he must have gotten a boon from Lord Shiva, and we see this theme so many times throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. A demon gets a boon. And even just in the movie, we saw the demon gets a boon from Lord Brahma. The demon gets a boon. And what's he do? He completely misuses it. He does whatever crazy, whimsical things he wants to do, because his discrimination is quite poor and his discernment is quite poor. He doesn't think about repercussions. He doesn't think about, how does this look? I mean, Prabhupada says with a lot of authority that pretty much anybody that saw Pandrika could see he was imitating. And, but it was very convincing to some because people were encouraging him. It was very convincing to some. It's really a danger for us to follow the groupthink. It's a danger for us to not really drill down with ourselves and look in our intelligence, our heart, and think, is this right? Okay, I have sources here, 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 and here, and there, and here, and, maybe they're not all on the same page, but we have to try our best to use our Krishna-given intelligence and all these tools that he has given us to make decisions that will ultimately affect our bhakti, they'll ultimately affect our sadhana, affect our relationships, as devotees particularly, that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur stresses devotees, Vaishnavas, must have excellent discernment. That's the hallmark of a Vaishnava, discernment, one of them. And, as we're coming along in our practice, that's something that we have to finely hone, that discernment and discrimination to be able to understand, is this going to help me in my practice or will this hurt my practice? Is this favorable to my Krishna consciousness or is this unfavorable to my Krishna consciousness? Maybe it feels good, maybe it's a good idea, and maybe all my friends are doing it. Everybody's doing it. But is it something that I should do? So to actually be introspective with ourselves, to try to understand just simple, right from wrong, particularly in our society. I've been speaking to some persons a lot lately about the tendency in our society right now to, instead of do as Prabhupada has instructed and try to reach out and try to create a revolution in the misdirected lives of an impious society, instead, many persons in this society would rather fight and, fault find and criticize and get into mundane topics and ruminate on it and then put it all on Facebook or Insta or wherever, be heard. And Prabhupada, one thing he said was, you don't know who a fool is until they open their mouth. So now we can be kind of jaded because we see so many people, talking about things that aren't relevant, not true, critical, just nothing Vaishnava Sadachar related. But that goes on, and we can't really be blindly following. Just because somebody's a devotee, and I'm not criticizing any devotees, but just because somebody's a devotee doesn't necessarily mean that every single thing that they're doing or saying is right, or best for you. It doesn't mean that, You still have to have some discernment and some discrimination. You have to try to drill down and use our tools. Guru, Sadhu, Sastra, use our tools that are always there and ask, ask our guru, ask our senior devotees, ask or try your best to find out the best course of action to take. Clearly, Pandrika was not thinking clearly because he took a path which, we're going to see down the road ultimately. He reaped what he sowed. And, for us, we want to reap what we sow. We want to sow what's good. We want to sow what we've been instructed to do, what our acharyas have told us, act on the right way of Dharma, sadhu sangha, and Vaishnava sadachara, right? So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts about that, but this whole story with Pandrika is just, it's so absurd. Would anybody like to share? Purva Prabhu.
I really appreciate your points. They're right on target. But you mentioned something, what Bhaktivinoda said.
Strict discernment, discrimination, very strong discrimination, which, is sometimes difficult. I mean, we have a lot of, especially in the case of Pandrika, the king of Kashi, you expect the king to be a righteous king, you're expecting him to have, some logic and reason. That's the expectation, right, of somebody in that role as a king. But he, it reminds me of, who was that other Rukmi? I mean, there's so many people throughout the Bhagavatam who, as soon as their friends put them up to something or they validate what they're saying or doing, their friends or associates, they just do it. They don't really, because they're waiting to do it. And if they get the green light, the validation, they're just going to do it, whether it's right or wrong. And it can be a razor's edge, particularly for us in this process, because we're trusting of each other, right? We're trusting of the process, which always, of course, is true. It's pure. But, sometimes persons in the process, if they don't have that proper discernment or discrimination, they could kind of direct us off course. Shri Shri Radha Goloka Nanda Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Tandar ako di kamania Iskesa soba Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Jami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Jami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Vasyanti Panti Kayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami 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 Govindam Adi Purusham
Arriba. Thank you. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite.
Radhe Radhe!
Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite. Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite. Taruni Mandala Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite. Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite. Damodara Ati Vadana Veshe Hari Niskha Vipine Se Rati Vadana Veshe Hari Niskha Damodara Rati Vadana Veshe Vipine Se Rati Varana Veshe Hari Niskuta Vinda Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite. Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite. Radhe Jaya 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 Vishabhantu Vashashileke Lalita Saki Gunaramita Vishake Dari Nava Navashashireke, Lalita Saki Gunaramita Vishake, Vishavanudari Navashashireke, Ramita Vishake, Dari Navashashireke, Lalita Saki Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite Jaya Jaya Madhava Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite Jaya Jaya Karunam Kurumai Karuna Bharite Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Charite Rumai Karuna Bharite Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Charite Karunam Kurumai Karuna Bharite Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Charite Gurumai Karuna Varite Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Charite Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite Jaya Jaya Madhava Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Shri Radhe. Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Shri. Jaya Giri Govardhan, 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 Jaya Giri, Jaya Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. All glories unto you, all glories unto you, beloved of Madhava, object of worship for all the young girls of Gokula. You dress yourself in such a way as to increase Lord Damodar's love and attachment for you. You are the controller of Vrindavan, the pleasure groves of Lord Hari. You are new moon arisen from the ocean of King Vrishabhanu. You are the friend of Lalita, and your wonderful qualities, friendliness, kindness, and faithfulness to Krishna endear you to Vishaka. You are an ocean of compassion, and your divine characteristics are characterized by the four Kumars, Sanaka, Sananda, Sananda, and Sunat Kumar. O Radha, please be merciful unto me.
Nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipanam. You keep yourself busy. Paramidayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapitani Amitas Smaranena Kala Etad Rashita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Dordaiva Midrishami Hajani Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Suhishuna Amani Namana Dena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadaram Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmani ishvareem bhavatad bhaktir ahoitaki tvai ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam buddha kripayata vabada pankaja stita duli sajushim vachintaya nayanam gadadashu daraya varanam gad garudaya gira Pulakarnishitam vapukada vaneva vishyati yugayatam namishena chakshusha bravashayatam shunayatam jagat sarvam govindam virahename asnalisha vapadamratam anasmam adarshanam marmahatakarotuva Yatatatava vidadatulam pato mat prananatastusa eva napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is for humanity at large because it spreads. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are all name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others